Tonight, COVID cases hit a new record, a mother from Guildford among the victims. A new Pfizer swap deal with the UK, and we reveal a major change to Sydney's vaccine rollout. An ISIS-inspired terrorist goes on a rampage in an Auckland supermarket. Also tonight, 3-year-old Memphis finally reunited with his mother. And a Dragon shock. Is one of their most important players about to move on?
This is 9 News with Georgie Garden.
Good evening. Our state is staring down its worst 2 weeks of the pandemic after more than 1,400 new cases of COVID-19. The number of dead has also hit a new peak, 12 in a single day, including a mother from Sydney's west.
Jamila Yagi, 38 years old, a mother of 4 and now a COVID casualty in our west.
It's awful. In this area, about 2% of the population has COVID at the moment.
Our 70th day of lockdown, our worst of the pandemic. 1,413 new cases. Jamila Yagi, one of 12 lives lost today. 87-year-old Tony Karam, also a victim. Father of COVID fugitive Anthony Karam, the family claims the infections aren't linked.
Some people who are very sick aren't even getting a test until right the last minute. And then it's almost too late by the time they get to hospital to treat them.
Many of those who died today are older, did have existing comorbidities and were unvaccinated or had one dose.
The Premier predicting case numbers will peak in the next fortnight before the increased vaccinations kick in. 2 weeks later, hospitalisations and deaths are expected to spike, with the month of October likely to be the greatest test of frontline services.
But that shouldn't worry us because it's part of our strategy. I don't mean to be glib when I say this, but in a few months' time we'll look back and realise that how worse the situation could have been in New South Wales.
Hospitals are tonight preparing for a sharp increase in admissions, intensive care units being expanded and more patients to be moved to other locations.
But even ambulance and paramedics will have different roles. They may be asked to take patients to different locations based on where we're spreading the loads.
It's leaving us prepared, we're told, but also isolated.
My mother suffers from early onset Alzheimer's and in the middle of the week last week had an event that caused it to become terminal.
Emma Peters' mum is in Perth and now has just a few weeks to live. The Redfern resident has been denied compassionate travel but says she'll keep trying.
It's an illness where it kind of robs you of your grieving process because the person disappears in front of you so slowly, and then now when we actually have an opportunity to come together and mourn her loss as a family, I feel like I'm being robbed of that as well.
New South Wales continues to be cut off from the rest of the country, but we also continue to vaccinate at a rate not seen anywhere in Australia.
That was the nicest needle I've ever had.
More than 800,000 people received the jab last week, the Mount Arthur coal mine in the Hunter Valley becoming the first workplace to provide vaccinations on site.
A lot of people want to get vaccinated, but they're just finding it difficult to be able to track down or find appointments, and so we thought, well, this is a great way to try and accelerate that in a small way.
And in another glimpse of what life after lockdown will look like, these rapid antigen test kits now being trialled in schools across Sydney.
It is possible today, if schools were open, for rapid tests to be used in schools.
Instead, Maryland's Hampden Park, Wiley Park, Glebe and Cambridge Park, among 7 schools closed for cleaning, meaning more homeschooling, more stress at home, and according to our chief psychiatrist, more reason for us all simply to talk.
It's important to be validating, to be optimistic, to be reassuring, and to be encouraging of what's going to happen for the future.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A crucial National Cabinet meeting has just wrapped up following days of political mudslinging over the country's reopening and vaccine rollout. Let's go now to federal politics reporter Jonathan Kersley. Jono, there are some tough months ahead, that's for sure.
Georgie, we've been warned the health systems will be stress tested. National Cabinet this afternoon examined updated modelling, which will be released in the days ahead. It is expected to provide a further indication of the pain that could lie ahead once restrictions ease, and even though more of the population will be vaccinated. And in the dash to get to those vaccination targets set by National Cabinet, the Prime Minister has called for help from one of our oldest allies. From Singapore to Sydney, hundreds of thousands of doses of the Pfizer vaccine. And soon,
from Downing Street to Down Under,
Scott Morrison and Boris Johnson swapping something sweeter than sugary treats. 4 million Pfizer doses to be flown in this month, the favour returned in December.
To ensure that we can progress the vaccination program as quickly as we possibly can.
We welcome any additional vaccines.
As national leaders try to progress the rollout and hit vaccine targets, the plan is for at least 10 million doses of Pfizer and Moderna to arrive in September, more than 11 million next month and nearly 14 million in November, meaning 35 million doses could arrive in Australia by December, on top of 3 million AstraZeneca doses in stockpile and 600,000 to be delivered in each of the next 2 weeks.
We are really going to be able to hit the marks that we all want to hit.
And if 80% of the population over 16 is vaccinated in one state, overseas travel for people there could take off before they could cross a state border.
The national plan sets out that very clearly.
The Prime Minister's planning a trip of his own for later this year to Washington for a meeting with US President Joe Biden and the Prime Ministers of India and Japan to address issues of security in the region. In other words, China.
People will see very clearly why it is important for me to be in Washington for those meetings.
This morning, the Prime Minister dialed in for talks with the US President to discuss the Indo-Pacific, but also the fallout from Afghanistan.
Australia was referred to in our discussion today as a bedrock partner.
A chance to reaffirm that alliance in person in the months ahead. Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.